Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second part of our AB 540 SB 68 Learning Lab Day 2, that portion that we were not able to sneak in due to our rich conversation about the promising practices, what some colleges are already doing to implement AB 540 on their campus. My name is Nancy Jadaitis. I'm the Director of Higher Education, Immigrants Rising. And I wanted to make sure that you got this information to see how you could not only go move beyond a better understanding of AB 540 and actually turn that into implementation on your campus. So, these were just some of the individuals that were involved in putting this presentation together. My coworker, Madeline Villanueva, who works at Immigrants Rising, and also the amazing Maria Gutierrez, who is the Dream Center coordinator and counselor at Chabot College. So shout out to each of them, although they're not present here today. And just in terms of thinking of some of the implementation strategies, I do think it's important for us to be thinking about how are the ways, like I was saying, that we can move beyond a better understanding and help build strategies on our campus so that not only the students that we actually talk to and support one by one, but every student that comes to our school will be able to take advantage of the law and the way that it was written. So in terms of, I just want to go over these 7 questions that you should ask. We spoke about these quickly in the last session, but thinking about ways in which, how is it that students at your college or university actually find out about AB 540 or SB 68? You might not know the answers to all of these questions yet, but I do think it's important. This is the way to get sort of some of the lay of the land about what's going on at your school. The second question that I think that's really important to ask is, are your websites, are the paper resources, are the forms that you have, are they all up to date? We did an audit a couple of years ago with the 32 Catalyst campuses that we were working at, and actually realized that at those specific campuses, and then at glancing at schools from across the state, that many did not have all of the specific requirements for SB 68. It was still kind of on that limited AB 540 of the 3 years. So is everything that you have up to date? Figuring out whether students actually have to self-certify at your school. Is it enough that they do the affidavit and they attest that all of this is true? Or do they actually need to get attendance records and transcripts and such to make sure that they can provide that proof of completion as well? It's a district by district decision within the community colleges. All of the CSUs and UCs do require the proof of completion, but important to just know the process and what specifically is required. The next question is it one person that processes the affidavit or many people that process the affidavit? Is it done by alphabet? Is it there's one residency coordinator? Just understanding that so you know where to direct your questions and how training should possibly take place and awareness building sort of within your campus community. And then how are non-credit and adult school hours tracked at your schools? So if you're at a community college or you're working with feeder schools that are non-credit schools and adult schools, how are those hours tracked? Because students often, if they're not doing self-certification, are going to be required proof of completion. And it's important that they know and that you help them better understand how those hours are tracked and make sure that every hour that they're attending is getting written down somewhere and has the ability to be able to be documented at the end of their semester or their class. The next question is, are the feeder schools that you're working with, are they all aware of the different requirements of AB 540? Do they know whether it's a self-certification? What's the process, right? Are they aware of the requirements? And do they know the process about how that is certified at your school? And then the last question I think is really important as well is, how can you as an individual build a stronger relationship with the leads from admissions and records, with the leads from outreach, with the leads from financial aid, if those are not already yourselves, right? And if you're in admissions, then who's your counterpart in financial aid? Who's the undocumented student resource center coordinator? Who's the peeps in outreach, to make sure that from the beginning of when the first student learns about what's going on at your campus until they're actually admitted, and then they receive their financial aid, that the information is consistent across the board and that you all are in communication. So those are the 7 questions. Let me see, 7 questions that I think it's really important for each of us to have a better understanding about our schools. Then in just terms of talking of some of the promising practices, I've had the privilege of being able to work with colleges and universities from across the state, specifically more deeply with our Catalyst campuses, but also individual colleges that just reach out to us or that are doing amazing work. And I just wanted to highlight a few. This is definitely not the extensive list, but getting some understanding about the promising practices that are taking place. So I think that it's important to just, like I was saying before, about the clear and accurate websites. We have a couple of examples right here of websites. These are the admissions websites themselves, right? Not the undocumented student center somewhere else, not, you know, a other area than admissions specifically. And if you look at the CSU Fullerton admissions, you'll see that right under the residency is something that's document, or like one of the options that they can choose right in the Office of Admissions. They also have the affidavit, right, like squarely placed on their residency page. And then they also talk about where that information should be either printed out and filled in, and when the deadline is due, right? Really important. All of those deadlines, you know, vary by school. So I love that CSU Fullerton is just like saying that straight out. Then taking a look at Santa Rosa Junior College, in their Office of Admissions, they actually have information for under the Dream Center over here. And they also have information about what is AB 540 and how can they be eligible. And those are linked right here in the PowerPoint. So you can just go directly to them to kind of get a better, to be able to scoot around yourself and see how all those pieces fit together. But we know so often that students, when they're coming to admissions, that information can sometimes be buried, forms can be like way hidden. So really important to have that information front and center so that students don't miss out on key documents and timelines that they need to follow. Then just thinking a little bit about like, how can the process be streamlined? I think it's really exciting that Long Beach City College has actually developed a new process so that students can actually have their non-credit hourly reports show up within their student portal. And students can actually, and there's a video that they put on about seeing how students can actually submit the affidavit, because many students are confused about that process. And many students don't understand the disconnect, like they're could potentially be going to the same physical campus, but why are some school hours or transcripts showing up and others not? So Long Beach did a great job of trying to integrate that better and streamline that process for students so that they can also be keeping track and be like, hey, how many hours did I get? Because if they need to get up to, you know, 420 hours per year or the total of 1260 for 3 years, it's really important that they can kind of have a way to monitor that. So that's great. Shout out to City College, Long Beach. In terms of Bakersfield College, they've done a great job in terms of, and they were one of the first people that I realized about how they are doing targeted outreach to help incoming students get connected to the support that they need. And this is a resource that was created by Bakersfield College, just talking about how they're using information from the enrollment services, from the MIS data, from the CCC Apply data, which is already housed within their campus. They have very clear protections about who can use that, but then they are working to be able to connect with incoming students. And then also admissions and the AB 540 program at their Bakersfield College are working together to help students complete the affidavits, just pre-screen the affidavits. And this has just made it so much quicker for individuals to be able to get a response. It's reduced the number of affidavits that are filled out incorrectly, because it's a kind of complicated form if you've seen it yourselves, and it reduces the processing time. So exciting to see. So shout out to them as well. And then another college that the last college that I wanted to highlight was Chabot College. And this is actually where Maria Gutierrez, who you saw in our first AB 540 Learning Lab, was with us. And they've done some great work. She, as well as some of her other colleagues, Kate Messina, Abby Patton, have worked to be able to create a clear information on their admissions website. Right here it says AB 540. And when you go to AB 540, it will take you to information about what AB 540 is. Also, and it links you to the Dreamer Center that they have on campus. And again, there's another link to AB 540 and SB 68. And both of those also will help you with this new student checklist. This new student checklist is actually the specific steps that students need to do as undocumented students. So oftentimes college or university will have a checklist for students, but we know there's multiple extra steps that undocumented students need to do to be able to get admitted, to be able to pay resident fees if they're eligible, and then to be able to get their financial aid released. So they've laid that out super nicely. And also they have a link specifically on their admissions page about what is AB 540. So I think that just those visible steps for enrolling are key. Another great way to elevate the implementation of AB 540 or SB 68 on your campus so that students know about that. And then another thing that Chabot College has done, which is super exciting, is that they recently got a new position at Chabot College, which is a full-time Dream Center coordinator position. But the super exciting thing and how they're taking this right to the next level is that 50% of that time is coordination efforts for the Dream Center, and 50% of that person's position is actually within admissions and records. So this is Maria's position. She does a lot of work directly with supporting undocumented students, building institutional practices, but she's also been trained and is part of the admissions department. And so that's a great way in which that information is streamlined, and that she actually spends time, the time that she's with admissions, processing AB 540 and residency classification positions. So my hope is that one day we could integrate those possibilities more to make sure that people are aware on both sides. What are the regulations? How can I make sure that I'm effectively documenting that I meet the regulations? And how can there be sensitive communication back and forth if something's missing or there's extra steps that the student would need to do? So shout out to all of those colleges. I'm really excited to be able to elevate those promising practices. And I know there's many more. If you're watching this video and you're like, hey, we're doing something really great, please email me. I'd love to get that information and share it out with others in the campus community. So the last thing I want to leave you with, and we talked about this quickly in that day, is that there is a new bill which is actually going to increase access through AB 540. And I strongly encourage you to be thinking about how can you get your campus or university to write a letter of support? How can you write a letter of support? And how can you actually make sure that you are talking to the senators before May 18th, who are part of the Senate Appropriations Committee, which is where this bill is. The Senate will actually reduce the attendance requirements from 3 years just down to 2. So it'll take away one of those years. It'll only be 2 years. And really importantly, it'll remove the cap on CCC attendance. Currently, as you know, there's a 2-year maximum on that cap. So definitely, please, I'll be sending these in the video that I send you, the email that I send you as well, but you can use this PowerPoint also to just link directly to the fact sheet to get some excellent talking points and to find out the specific contact information to the senators who are on the Senate Appropriations Committee. We all are committed to the equitable implementation of AB 540, and this would be a great addition to the law. So thank you so much for participating. I'm hoping today that you're thinking about what it is that you can commit to, which of these promising practices make you super excited. And if you haven't already filled out our evaluation, which will be included in the email, please send that to us as well. We want to know what about this session of the promising practices, what about this session with the learning labs was really so helpful to you. So I'll leave you with our contact information. We're definitely here to support. We really appreciate all that you are up to and are excited to continue working effectively with you to increase the equitable implementation of AB 540 and SB 68 across the state of California. Thanks so much. Signing off. I hope you have a great day. Thanks. Okay, bye.